StartupGeist Podcast. Learn from aspiring entrepreneurs and their journey over time. It shows entrepreneurs are not born. We are self-made.
I'll mute myself when I'll mute myself when I'm not talking, so it's a bit easier.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that's cool. Okay. Woohoo! Welcome to the StartupGeist Podcast. This is a We Are Self-Made episode. This is the first out of 5 episodes where we document the journey of an entrepreneur over the next 6 months. This show is not your traditional show on entrepreneurship with critic quotes about failing fast and often, but an honest look at the good, bad and ugly. It's an experiment and I hope you will enjoy it. Today I talk to Hugh Robinson. He's known for overcoming personal challenges and turned his passion into a coaching business that helps transform lives of others. He's now launching a membership site that serves a wider audience and expands his portfolio as an entrepreneur. His journey was covered in episode number 16 of the StartupGeist Podcast. So if you want to listen about his journey, what he learned so far, please tune in, number 16. And today we're going to speak about his next 6 months. Hi, Hugh. Thanks for being on the show and taking part in this experiment.
Hi, Danny. Thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure.
So today we're going to cover 5 things. Little intro, getting to know you, your bigger goals, the why behind you do what you do. Then we want to hear your 6-month goals, what you want to achieve in the next month until we talk. And we're going to have a public announcement for you to make that you're going to be committing to this experiment. And I want to acknowledge you for taking the time already. And I know it's not easy to sit on the other side and tell this and define goals. So what do you want to get out of this? Why are you taking part?
So 2 reasons really. One is for my own kind of personal growth, and so I can actually, go back over the episodes and see the growth and development I've had, not just in my business but personally as well over the 6 months we do this, and then also to show people the journey that it goes through. And I'm very much mindset orientated. I believe that it does start from within, whatever you're trying to do, whatever you're trying to achieve goal-wise, and I'm sure we'll expand on that within this episode. But it's to emphasize that to other people. People often are so driven by the external first, and they don't start with their why within. So I think this is just going to emphasize that to other aspiring entrepreneurs who maybe feel a little bit lost and they're a little bit misguided with where they want to go and why they actually want to achieve the things that they do, which I think is the most important thing.
Yeah, I like this approach because I totally relate to it, and I agree that most change happens from within. And I would love to talk about more about the mindset game, what kind of exercises you do on a consistent base, and sometimes just a new exercise that brought up new thoughts, breakthroughs. But before we talk about your bigger goals in life, I want to give the audience a chance to get to know you a little bit better. And I brought a few questions, as you know. If you could be an animal, what would you be?
If I could be an animal, I think a lion. It kind of goes with my message about self-ownership and being the strongest version of you. Lions, it's not just about the hunting. The lion goes out and takes what they want. It's also about they'll take a nap whenever they want. I love that. There's a nap in the middle of the day.
Okay, then let's reverse this question. What animal would you never want to be?
Sheep.
Why?
Because that's what most of society are, man. You're just following blind leaders and they're just leading you to the slaughter. So yeah, I think that's a message that a lot of people, even in entrepreneurship, that I think is important, because often you think you're an entrepreneur, therefore you've stepped away from that. But what a lot of the time, and I've fallen into this myself, it's you're still a follower. You're following a follower who's following a follower, rather than taking self-ownership and being a leader, and then still learning from other people, but you're not trying to be them.
Mm-hmm. I agree, and for me personally, I've been following, for example, Tim Ferriss a long time, and a few of my friends, they get already annoyed, like, Danny, you just speak about Tim Ferriss. Please build up your own opinion. So I can relate to what you just said, following a leader, and he's just following other leaders for sure. What one bad habit you are trying to get rid of right now?
So yeah, organization is the biggest thing for me. I feel like I've tackled most of my poor habits that don't promote the lifestyle I want to live. But organization's still a little bit of a weak spot because I'm still in the developing stages of things, and I'm sure we'll talk about this later on, but I've got a launch coming up. My kind of time management hasn't been as good as it could be, or make me as productive as I could be. Mm-hmm. And often that leads to procrastination.
What are you struggling with? Is it like setting realistic goals, setting a time schedule? So what about organization is lacking?
I'd say, we talked about this before the call, but I think active procrastination, it's still procrastination, where I think that I need to learn about something that's going to help me. But as I said, I've spent the last 2 years learning about strategies within marketing and business, and I have all the strategies I need. It's just about taking action now. So, to be fair, the last couple of weeks I haven't been doing this. I have been entirely focused, and I've not been doing those procrastinating things, spending hours watching, learning new information all the time. Now, it's easy to fill your heads full of stuff, but sometimes we need to do the opposite and just empty our heads and just go and just create instead of just absorbing all this information. So that for me is the thing I'm working on at the moment and have been for the last few weeks.
Do you think we on the show can hold you accountable on following through and clearing your head and being less in the, what I call, knowledge acquiring game, and instead be on the focused creating game?
Yeah, 100%, man. And it'll be interesting to see where I am in the next, episode. But yeah, it's definitely an important thing, and not just for me, but any entrepreneur, because if you're, when you start out, there is going to be a degree of learning that is important, and you're going to need to get guidance on certain things to get you going. But at the end of the day, if you're not applying any of it, it's pointless. And I realized that I've spent a lot of money on courses and a lot of time learning information, but a lot of it's useless. Even my time at university, I did a sports science degree. I spent 3 years using information or learning information that I don't think I've ever used. Yeah. Maybe I've used a fraction of it.
How much money did you spend on courses, like just as a ballpark figure?
I've probably spent maybe close to $35,000, no, probably about $40,000 US dollars over the last 5 years.
Wow. So, wow. So what would you do differently when, like, someone who is now looking into getting a course or thinking about getting a course, what would you do differently based on your experience when it comes to getting a system and then following it, or getting a course and then learning the lessons and implementing them?
So I think it depends on the outcome, but I think going back to your why, first of all, is important. Working out your why. Like, why do you want to achieve the thing you want to do within your business? Why is that important to you? What is the feeling that you're trying to get? What's the lifestyle you're trying to live? And a lot of the time you ask entrepreneurs what they want to achieve, and they're like, I just want to be earning 10K or 20K a month. That's not your why. That isn't your why. People get confused with that. So it's important to take a step back, and what is the feeling you're after? Maybe it's freedom. And then you ask yourself, why is that important to you? And from there, you can then start working out your how. How are you going to create that freedom? How are you going to start implementing that? Okay, then that's when money might come into play. And it's like, right, okay, to fulfill this lifestyle and to have that sense of freedom, I'm like however much money a month is going to be important to support that. And then what? What are you going to do? What's within your skill set or that you can work on to then create the how, which will fulfill the why.
Yeah. So that's what so that's how you would approach it now. So you would spend time before buying a course. You would spend time on, okay, what is it? What I want to do? Like, why am I doing this? What feeling am I after? Then you describe. Then you would think about. Then you would find information around what can I actually do. So is it drop shipping, e-commerce store, white label solution, YouTube, ebook, Kindle publishing? So you have thousands of opportunities out there to become an entrepreneur. And then you would think about how can I get there? And then that's where the course comes in, that you select
Yeah.
the course.
So again, this depends on what you're doing, but you can either go down the route of education and solely education, which is pretty much what a course is. You might get some support, but you're pretty much just paying for information. What I'd ask yourself, if you really want to learn that information, you can probably get a lot of it online. So the information isn't the problem, it's the application. So that's where I think mentorship and having a coach, which is different from a course, is really important. So maybe someone you can work with one-to-one or on a small group basis. And the way you find this person is, again, going back to that why you want to achieve that, and you find someone who is further along than you, who has achieved the things that you want to achieve. Find that person and learn from them instead of just trying to learn from people that have information. Loads of people have information. You can get that anywhere. But if you can find someone who is on the same wavelength as you, and you can learn a lot from them, not just about knowledge, but about how to actually apply it.
Yeah, that's a good advice. If you could ask one person one question and they had to answer truthfully, who and what would you ask them?
It's a hard question, man. I'd ask Gary Vaynerchuk what his real why was, because I don't believe that somebody that truly loves their family and truly loves spending time with their family would dedicate 18 hours of their day every single day away from their family. I don't believe that his why is strong enough. He says he wants to buy the New York Jets, is it? And I don't think that adds up to me. I think that is him. He's looking for something externally. So I think for him to answer truthfully, which, I imagine he doesn't really know because he's looking for that externally, I'd want to know why, what is his actual why?
I like this answer. I would love to know this as well. If you could change one thing about your life instantly, what would it be?
So I think it would be my handstand ability.
Why?
That's something that I've been working on within my physical self, and I'm very much into body weight and calisthenics. And for me, it's important, not so much as how I look, but for me, I've had a lot of injuries over the last few years, and I've always felt like, for a long time, I felt like my body has been in control of me. I haven't been in control of my body. So I got really into calisthenics this past year to turn that around and make me feel in control of my body. And one of my biggest goals within that is being able to do freestanding handstands, which I can do for a couple of seconds, but it's just developing that. But to take it back, what you said, to do it instantly, I don't actually believe in that. So I don't believe in that instant success because you haven't worked for it and there's no appreciation of it. So what I do with handstands is every single day I'll put at least 2 minutes aside, close to 5 minutes most days, but I'll put at least 2 minutes aside each day to work on that, to work on my technique and keep going. And I'll look at my weaknesses, I'll look at my strengths, and I'll go from there. And to expand on this a little bit, you go back to people that wish that they were rich, people that win the lottery, and then within, a couple of years, they win the jackpot. Within a couple of years, they're poor again because they never built the habit of being rich, which, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is a great book, will teach you. People don't build the habits and then they fall back. And it's the same with what I do within health and fitness. People just go on a diet plan for 12 weeks and get into, quote unquote, good shape. Once they're back to their, they're by themselves, they just fall back into those old habits because they've not spent the time building those habits. And, we are what we repeatedly do, said Aristotle, and that's true.
And I remember in episode number 16, you talked about your journey, that's where you kind of focus on the bigger picture when it comes to health and nutrition, and everyone is niching down, and you kind of struggled because you could easily give people recipes and do this stuff, but you always, you feel from within that that's not the change they need, the true change they need. So that's why you focus always on the mindset and the holistic picture, and that's what you just explained right there, which is so good. In terms of best advice ever been given to you, what comes to mind?
Best advice. So probably when I was a little kid, and I imagine a lot of people were told this, and you see it in films and stuff, where I was always chasing after girls when I was younger, and I would think maybe I was like 8 years old, and I had a crush on someone in my class, and my mum just said to me, "Hugh, be yourself," and I never did. Maybe 20 years later, or maybe a bit less, maybe 16 years later, like I finally know what that means to be yourself and to not care about what other people think about you, which so many people are driven by. Like I talked, and I won't go into too much depth with this because I talked about that in a previous interview, but for a long time I was driven by fear and anxiety, and they just took over, and I was always scared of what other people thought about me, and I was never really myself, and I never kind of had self-ownership, which is the message that I promote today with the business and the coaching that I do. And I think self-ownership is so important. That comes from knowing your core values, knowing your why, not just within business but in life in general, and going from there. So I think knowing yourself, being yourself, is the most important thing.
What is one or two quick tips that were really strong, like what you did, that helped you to be yourself more? Because I know that is something a lot of men and women thrive for, not only entrepreneurs, but generally men and women, but especially entrepreneurs, as you said, like we tend to become one-dimensional douchebags, just being focused on our business, defining ourselves by our business, and especially by the success of our business. And if we get a negative comment, a negative review from a client or a customer, we feel bad, as if we take it personally because they attacked our business, our baby. But then we don't see the bigger picture, that there's health, relationships, and other things in our life going on. So what did you do to be more true of yourself? And maybe you can just list one or two things that helped you to embrace who you are.
Okay, I'm going to keep this really simple because there's a lot of things along this journey that has helped me, but the two biggest things are mindfulness. So for me, meditation is a really important part of my day, and for me it's just about switching off my thoughts, because as I've talked about, I used to have a lot of anxiety. I was very overly analytical of everything, so switching off my thoughts and being able to just dig into my emotion a bit. And also journaling. So I think one of the most powerful questions you can ask is, what can I learn from this? And if you have that mentality towards anything, it doesn't matter what happens in your life, if you can learn from it, then it hasn't been a negative experience.
Two simple action points. I like it. Thanks for sharing them. Last one before we go into the deeper one, and that's already building the bridge. When you die, what do you want to be remembered for?
That's a hard one, man. I don't think it really matters, to be honest. I don't think it matters what other people think of me. And this goes back to my whole message. I think if I'm on my deathbed and I feel happy with myself and I've lived a fulfilling life, it's all that matters. It doesn't matter about the memories I've left other people.
So you don't want to be remembered?
It's not that I don't want to be remembered. I think if I've lived the best life possible, and I've been true to myself and the message that I promote, then it's gonna have helped other people. But I guess if it wasn't going to be awkward and I was going to answer your question properly, it would be helping others be their true self and feel the best versions of them and feel strong as well.
The reason why I like your first answer, and I didn't want to push you to give an answer actually, but the reason why I liked your first answer is it's similar to enjoying the journey versus only chasing the goal. And if you're only chasing the goal, you can't really enjoy the journey. And the journey is where happiness, fulfillment, a feeling of being content and happiness comes in, right? Whatever you do, and especially in entrepreneurs, we're always looking into the future, chasing those bigger goals, the what, but it's so hard to relate to each and every step we take, each and every day. So that's why your answer is, for me, it's inspiring, because it means actually I'm not working for being remembered. I'm just working for becoming true to myself, being really strong and then I know I'm gonna be remembered, but that's not what I want. And it's similar to if you're not chasing the goal and just work on your journey, have routines, rituals, strong habits in place, you can't help but be successful, and then you're gonna be remembered, right? So that's why I like your answer.
Yeah, to expand on what you've just said, seems to be an issue with a lot of people anyway, but being present is such an important aspect of being an entrepreneur, because you tell yourself, oh no, I need to be 10 steps ahead all the time. But there's a time and a place. So for me in the morning, I'll talk a little bit about my routine because this ties into this, and I think this is really important. The first thing I do in my morning routine is meditate. So I start with my emotional self. I start from within. So I work on my meditation, I work on my emotional state. I visualize within that. So I visualize my long-term goal, which for me is about like helping a lot of people feel good enough, feel strong within themselves, and I have a vision of myself stood on stage in front of thousands of people doing this, and that's going to be a byproduct of my coaching business now. I then work on my mental state, so I've taken it out a step, working on my mental state, and this is where I'll journal. I'll ask myself the questions: what actions can I take today that are going to move me towards that vision? I'll write down my actions for the day. Sometimes I'll write them out and I'll look at things. I'll ask myself the question, is that actually going to take me a step forward? Nope. Write it off the list. And then lastly, my physical self. So I'll increase my physical state. I'll exercise, I'll eat well. So I think that is a really important way of working towards your goals. So yeah, in a sense, you're going to be ahead when you're visualizing, but you're present within that visualization. You're living it as if you've already achieved it. And then from there, you can reverse engineer. You can just be like, right, okay, for me to get to that place and that point in time, what steps do I need to have taken? And it always comes back to habits. So you ask yourself, what habits is that version implemented? What do they do on a day-to-day basis? And then you start doing those things. It's easy to say, when I get to this point, then I'll start doing those things. But it doesn't work like that. That person, that version of you, that successful version, has created that beforehand. Those habits, or the result comes as a byproduct of your habits.
Yeah, that was definitely a huge learning for me, and especially last week, I had a major breakthrough, as I told you before we hit recording, or I hit recording. So yeah, habits and systems beats goals. That's for sure. And you just briefly touched upon it, the bigger goals in life. What is your mission? What is your why? And then let's go down 6-month goals.
So yeah, my why is having complete self-ownership. It's as simple as that. So feeling completely in control, feeling strong, and feeling present. That is my why.
In control of what?
In control of myself. So not being controlled by fear and anxiety. That for me is my why. So as a byproduct of that, I want to inspire other people to do the same. So within my coaching, within my group coaching, which I'll talk about later on, and later down the line within public speaking and what I do with my podcast and everything else as well, and videos that I put out on a daily basis, all I'm doing is showing people my true self, and hopefully that will inspire others. And I ask the questions that will bring this to the surface in other people as well, and realize why they don't feel in control or complete.
What do you want to achieve in the next 6 months? So this is the bigger goal, the bigger vision, and I don't want to talk about how you want to get there, like the bigger one, but let's define, or just share with us what you want to achieve in the next 6 months and how you want to achieve it.
Okay, so obviously, yeah, we've talked about the why. So for me, next year, I want to be starting to run events, and a big part of what I enjoy doing is traveling. And I want to be next year, I want to run several events around the world. So I still have I already have a few ideas in my head of where I'd like to have the first few. So here where I am now in Bali would be, I think, a really good place to have an event. I'm looking at Cape Town in South Africa. And then maybe somewhere stateside as well. So I want to aim for at least 3 events next year. For me, that's just about putting my message out and getting people in front of me, like on a physical level, to actually help coach them and break them through some of these deeper barriers so they can go on and help other people themselves. And in terms of how I get there, it's building out this group coaching format that I'm doing now, expanding that. So my primary goal is to get as many people through the door as possible, and I want to get to 100 people within that group coaching program within the next 6 months.
Where are you right now, just as a benchmark for us?
So I'm launching this on Friday. It hasn't launched yet. My aim is to have 10 people by Friday, which I should easily do. I've already got 5 people on the pre-launch, so before I've even put any offers out, just from conversations I've had. So yeah, my aim is to have 10 people by the end of this week and 20 people by the end of this month. And that's before advertising.
Will this, what will this be? You said it's a membership area where you can do what? So
it's essentially, it's more than a membership site, so it's going to be a group coaching program. So what I've realized I still do one-to-one coaching, but I'm only going to work with 5 people at a time with that, and it is a premium for that. So with the group coaching, one thing I've realized a lot of the time is I answer the same questions over and over again. And with having a group coaching format, when one person asks a question, you can answer that, and another person on the call will have a breakthrough. Mm-hmm. So it's really powerful, and some people on the call the question might not come to them initially, and the question that they want answering might come from another person. So you're just kind of bouncing these breakthroughs off each other, and they're really powerful. Yeah. In terms of time management, it allows me to manage my time and help more people. It's also a lower barrier entry point for people. So as I say, I charge a premium for one-to-one, but for the group coaching, it's a lot less. So it's more manageable for them. And then as part of that, they'll have obviously support and accountability through group format on Facebook. There's a membership site where each month there'll be a different focus point. It's all built around habits, and it's all about implementation of habits, but there's educational side of things within nutrition and training. There's support within improving different aspects, whether that's sleep, whether that's performance. But the whole kind of program is built around guys young guys who want to feel and look strong.
I like the comment on the group coaching thing. How, and I want to just for me to understand, and maybe the listeners are interested in this as well. How big are those groups? You think 5 to 10 people, or bigger even?
Bigger. So yeah, I mean, as I say, my aim in 6 months' time is to have 100 people on the group program. The thing is, the show up rate is always going to vary with these, and because I work with people all around the world, I think later down the line when it has expanded, then I'm going to have different kind of group coaching calls for different places in the world. I've also just brought on an intern, so someone I'm going to be coaching up myself to then do coaching. They're based in the UK, and what I want them to do later down the line is coach people in the UK. So they'll be taking those calls and they'll learn from me, my coaching expertise, and then also add their own element to that as well. So they'll be taking people within the UK.
And your one-on-one coaching, what's your focus there?
In the one-to-one coaching? That's just for people that that's more on the self-development side. So going really deep, and people that have a lot of deep-rooted issues that need the pulling out, and need those issues brought to the surface, and need that pulling out of them so they can really step into the best versions of themselves and not feel restricted. So that's for people that are just completely lost to life, they just need that turnaround.
Yeah. In terms of, so you said in 6 months you want to have 100 members of your group coaching. Let's anticipate your biggest obstacles and challenges. What do you feel you're going to be fighting with, and how do you prepare yourself already for it?
So the biggest things with me are, the obstacles, I already know how my approach is. So marketing, I have someone who's kind of running ads for me, but I'm fairly kind of proficient with Facebook ads myself. being consistent with content, I think, is the biggest thing, and getting the balance between me signing new people up and me staying in that creative headspace. So this, again, is just all about testing me and staying within that self-ownership. So making sure that I'm spending my morning on me and being creative and being productive, and then the afternoon is where I'll be doing coaching calls, where I'll be signing new people up, and where I'll be contacting and messaging people, leads and things like that to book them in.
What else do you see could be a challenge? So you said consistently creating good content. What else?
I think in terms of not stretching myself too far, and this is why I'm building a team as I go. A lot of the time people are very reluctant to bring people on board their company, but this is why I'm bringing on interns first, so I can actually coach them myself and make sure they're a fit before I just hire people. But outsourcing is going to be a big one for me, and I guess prioritizing outsourcing. And there's a system I came up with which I think is really important for this, and I think this is something that a lot of entrepreneurs can learn from. So there's a book called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, and in it he talks about your 4 zones. You have your zone of genius, which is, you know, where most ideas come from, those internal ideas, what you really want to do and what you're really, really good at. Then you have your zone of excellence. So there's still things you're really good at, but, you know, they're not quite things that really get you driven. Then you have your zone of competence, which is stuff that you can do but you don't enjoy doing. And then you have your zone of incompetence, the stuff that causes you a lot of stress and the stuff that you just don't want to be doing in your business. Now, obviously, this is a spectrum, and what I do is any entrepreneur would really benefit from doing this. Write down everything that you do and needs doing within your business and put it into these 4 zones. Then next, when you look at outsourcing, you want to be outsourcing stuff in your zone of incompetence as fast as possible. So the idea is you're working through the spectrum, so you're only doing the stuff within the zone of genius. And obviously how you work out what is going to go first is what is going to have the biggest impact on your business. So for me, it was advertising. That is not within my zone of competence. I'm really not competent. It just causes me a lot of stress. I don't want to do it. So that's the first thing that goes. Outsource that. And then organization isn't my strong point. So hiring a PA is going to be my next protocol, an accountant, things like this. So then I can work towards everything else as well.
Thanks for sharing this. I just took a note that the zone of incompetence, I'm gonna be asking myself this tonight. What are tasks that I can outsource right now I shouldn't be doing? And the advertising stuff, I totally agree. Right now, my attitude towards most business tasks is I want to do them myself right now, just to understand the basics, that I can hire someone that I can evaluate whether he's good or not. Not just on a gut feeling, like do I want to work with him personally, but also from a skill level. So that's my approach right now.
Definitely. And I think don't get me wrong, I think that's still important when you start out within your business. It's still important to go through those things and, you know, build a system out, and then you can talk to someone through your system. And then, you know, especially if you're hiring multiple people along the way, it's going to be easier and easier to do that. If you say you video everything you do within one system of your business, then you bring an intern on or someone to work with you, and you say, okay, watch this video. This is exactly how I do this, and this. This is what I want you to do. Understand it, do it, show me you can do it, and then you're good to go.
Good advice. I like it. And shit, I'm just repeating myself. Good advice. I like this. But this is really good stuff. Thanks for sharing this. So before we go to the public announcement, maybe you can share a little bit how you will feel if you achieve this goal of 100 group coaching students. How does it make you feel? Like, anticipate already the future, visualize, like share the emotions that you're gonna be like feeling and experiencing.
I think it's just expanding on what I've worked on already, but it's just feeling powerful and knowing that you can have such a big impact on other people. The impact is the biggest thing for me, because if you can change one person's life, they change everybody's life within their their circle, their inner circle. So if I have 100 people that I'm impacting on the deep level, they're impacting people around them. The effect that that's having is huge, and yeah, it's all just about kind of creating, I guess, long-term, creating a better world and a more positive, more inspiring and more empowered world where people look after each other, but put themselves first, because that's still important, and that's where looking after people truly comes from, being able to look after yourself first.
How will you feel if you don't achieve this goal?
If I don't achieve it, well, I mean, for me, that's not an option, but I guess if I were to fall short, then I'd take a step back and I'd ask, what can I learn from this? Where have I gone wrong? Or where hasn't gone as well? And then move on.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to say I like this, but there, that's the only thing you can do. Of course, grieve a little bit, self-doubt a little bit, but then ultimately learn. You know, it's a learning journey, and we will make sure on the show that you at least get somewhere. And you know, like, goals are there to guide you, but even if you're at 80 students, it proves something. So, which is powerful too. So I guess that's it on my end. I like that we cut it shorter than usual. I want you to ask as the last point, before we do the public announcement, just tell us what you're going to be working on in the next 4 to 6 weeks until we speak. Like you said, you're going to be launching the membership or the group coaching. Hopefully by the end of the month, you said you want to have 20 members of the group coaching. What you're going to be working on to get them. So just on a high level, so that we can then talk about those points later, and then maybe close those points with a public announcement that you're going to be committing for the next 6 months to share your journey with us, and your commitment includes another 4 episodes.
Yeah, so in terms of the initial people that I'm picking up, it's all organic. So I'm literally just messaging all my previous leads, like on Facebook, starting a conversation and booking them in for calls. Then when I'm on a call with someone, I know I can get them on. If I have the right person on the call, and you know, I'll only book people in that I know will benefit from my coaching,
Mm-hmm.
I'll get them on board. Like, for me, it's easy. Like, the last 5 people I've had on the call, I've signed up. There's been no resistance. It's easy. It's just making sure that I get the right people in front of me. So continuing to put out my true message, which I have been doing on a day-to-day basis in terms of my videos, within writing, putting out some good content, reaching out as well. So getting more people on my podcast who have a higher reach, to bring more people into that circle, that outer circle, and bring them within my inner circle, grow my free Facebook group, continue to put value out. So I've just created a free e-series, and this is what I'm going to be using later on in the paid advertising, but I'm also going to be using within my free group as well. And the whole purpose of this is, one, to give them, the people that view the free series, open them up to a bit, build trust within myself, because I've given them some good value, and then to book them onto a call so I can then, if they are the right fit, get them on my program. And I think that's really important as well. I'm not just trying to sell this for the sake of it. For me, as I said, money is a byproduct of the results I get with people and the impacts that I have with people.
What I would like to do then in the next show is, if you're up for it, it's clearly defining how many calls you do, how many podcasts you want to deliver, maybe just a few action points, that we have a better picture of, like, is it a weekly podcast episode? Is it like 2 or 3 calls a day? So how much are you hustling to get where you want to get? But I think for today, we understood the big picture. You're going to be launching the site right now. Then you're going to be working hard on a one-on-one basis to get as many group members as you can. You want to get them, we want to be at 20. And I want to leave it with your public announcement and another acknowledgement how happy I am that you agreed to be part of this experiment. I know it won't be easy on your end to justify if a goal hasn't been met, or maybe some other issues that might come up along the journey. And I'm going to be here for you as a friend, as hopefully as a supporting, not coach, but just a supporting factor in your journey. And then I'm really extremely glad that you agreed to be part of this experiment. Thank you.
Of course, man. Yeah, no, I appreciate being invited onto the show, and it'll be good to help other people through their limiting beliefs and start up as entrepreneurs.
So Are you willing to commit for 6 months for another 4 shows and be your true self?
Of course, man, of course.
Cool. Thanks, you. Really enjoyed talking to you. I'm excited for the journey to be unfolded. Excited for your journey. Feel really happy about your steps, that you already have a few commitments. Can't wait to see how many commitments you're gonna get in the next 6 weeks. And until then, stay healthy, balanced, my friend, and best of luck.
Thanks for having me on, Danny. I look forward to speaking to you next time. Peace out.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
StartupGeist Podcast. Entrepreneurs are not born. We are self-made. Please leave an honest rating on iTunes or leave a comment on startupgeist.com/podcast. Thank you for listening.